Let's talk sales, and today's our second installment of selling like a bank robber. Now, what do I mean by selling like a bank robber? Well, I don't mean doing anything illegal, and I certainly don't mean taking anything by force. What I do mean is starting to learn the difference between being strategic and being impulsive in our activities. Now, you may be wondering, what's the correlation between a salesperson and a bank robber? Well, I'm about to tell you in this video. Let's take our bank robber first. What's our bank robber's ultimate goal? Well, our ultimate goal as a bank robber is financial gain. But there's a couple of mini goals beneath that help funnel up to that financial prosperity goal at the top. And those are minimizing our risk and maximizing our potential ROI, or return on investment. And there's a lot of investments that the bank robber is going to make, and we won't list them all here, but they're going to make a lot of investments, including the activities of entering the bank and robbing it. And they want to maximize the return on that investment. Now, there's two approaches that our bank robber could take. Approach number one is random selection. So our bank robber is going to go out and prospect a qualified bank to rob. And they're going to do it using random selection. What do I mean by random selection? They're going to drive around and they're going to judge a book by its cover and make a choice on which one they're going to enter and rob. It may look like this. They're driving around and they make some observations. This parking lot looks kind of empty. Looking through the window of this bank, and I don't see a security guard. I'm in a very wealthy part of town. There's a lot of high net worth individuals that probably utilize the services at this particular bank branch. The problem is that these are assumptions and not facts. And when we use assumptions to make decisions, we don't minimize our risk and we don't increase or maximize our potential ROI. So what's our second approach? Well, our second approach for our bank robber is strategic analysis to make an educated decision on which one of these banks is going to minimize our risk and maximize our potential ROI. There's a lot of factors that would go into developing this strategic approach, but for our purpose of discussing it here today, we're going to boil it down to three. Number one, accessibility. How easy is it for me to get to the bank? And then how many options do I have to leave the bank? And how easily can I get far away in the least amount of time? So we're going to look at the accessibility profile of the bank. Number two, what security measures has the bank employed to prevent this very activity that I'm participating in? And once I've identified what security measures are in place, can I overcome these challenges successfully in order to rob the bank? And number three, does this location possess the financial gain that I wish for as my major goal, that financial gain, that financial prosperity goal at the top of the pyramid? Can I achieve that by robbing this particular location? Now, you may have listened to this and thought to yourself, well, why would any bank robber ever select random selection option number one when so clearly the strategic approach is the smarter way to go? Well, the only reason we ever do random selection is because we're desperate, right? We don't believe that we have enough time to be strategic to obtain the financial goal, but we need the financial goal. So we take to random selection because we believe that we're operating under the law of averages. Now let's flip over to the salesperson. What is the salesperson's goal? Well, bingo, it's the same goal as the bank robber, financial gain. And if you haven't guessed it, they also have those smaller goals right underneath it, minimizing risk and maximizing potential ROI. Now you may be saying, well, what risk is posed to the salesperson by going out and prospecting and qualifying customers, potential customers, in way of individuals and companies? Well, surprise, surprise, you may be looking at a bank robber and say, okay, well, they run the risk of getting caught, getting injured or losing their life. But a salesperson runs none of those risks. Well, the salesperson does run a risk, and they do need to minimize that risk. And that risk is wasting their time, energy, and resources, which in the sales world is just as detrimental as getting caught, injured, or killed. So let's take those two approaches again, and let's look at the salesperson going out and doing a random selection process in their prospecting activities. So they're going to drive into their territory, and they're going to randomly drive around, and they're going to look and make assumptions, judge the book by its cover, and choose places to go in and see if they qualify for their product and service, and then see if somebody will talk to them about their product or service. And all of this takes time, energy, and resources. And they're going to make those same assumptions that the bank robber's making. You know, how many people are in this parking lot? Does this particular company look like they have the financial resources for my product or service? Somebody told me through somebody else that they know who works at a place with a guy who said that maybe he knows a guy who thinks that they might need a product or service that's similar to mine, and a slew of other things that are not based on fact. Now, there's a second approach for the salesperson, and that's, if you haven't guessed it, the strategic approach. Now, the strategic approach can be boiled down for the purposes of our conversation here today to a similar three examples of what that salesperson would look for to produce a profile, an ideal prospect profile for them to determine where they want to go and exhaust their efforts. And it would look a lot similar to the bank robber's approach than you might imagine. So first, accessibility. Well, they're not looking to get somewhere quick and have multiple ways of leaving the place and getting far away as quickly as possible. But what we do want to do when we're prospecting is measure efficiency. All right, so on Tuesday, I want to go and prospect company A. Great. But I have an appointment at company B an hour before I want to go and prospect company A. And company A is a long distance away from company B. Is that day the best day for me to go and try to prospect company A? Probably not. I may want to look at potential prospects closer to prospect B, company B, where I'm having the meeting, and utilize that time for those. So we want to look at accessibility in terms of efficiency. Number two, if I go to this location to prospect it, what are the barriers to entry? What have they put in place in way of gatekeepers or otherwise to prevent me from seeing the individual that I need to see in order to obtain an opportunity? And if I can't overcome those physically when I go to the location, then maybe it doesn't make sense for me to do so until I've found another way to make the contacts necessary to get past those gatekeepers and those barriers of entry and get to the individual in a scheduled manner that I need to meet with in order to obtain an opportunity. And number three, do they fit the financial profile? And this is the one thing that you can never tell in random selection prospecting, because you have no idea what somebody's financial profile is unless you've taken the time to do the research. Do they have the resources, at least at a high level, from what I can tell from research or otherwise, to be able to afford my service or product? That is the strategic approach. And much like the bank robber that chooses random selection, the salesperson that chooses random selection is more often than not in a mode of desperation. Their pipeline's deficient. It's the end of the month. They need to close a deal. Maybe their job's at risk. There's a lot of factors that may play into that. And there's a whole other discussion on how we prevent getting in that position. But even when you feel desperate, it will always make sense for you to go take a step back and be strategic in your activities. So next time you're going to sell like a bank robber, sell like a strategic bank robber.